Welcome to the Lightforge podcast. This is Adwikdom.
This is Merps. We're gonna do a short one today. We're recording this Friday night. So if something crazy happens over the weekend, which it shouldn't, which it won't, because it's Blizzard,
Unless it
and
does.
unless it does. So that's a little bit of context. But we need to get a podcast out this week because we always get something out. But expect a short one because okay, first of all, let's talk arena. No huge patch. What a shocker. Don't expect a huge patch
We're
anytime
actually going to
soon.
talk a bit about Arena in this podcast.
However, the arena leaderboards did come out. These were the arena leaderboards for November 1st, 2021. It seems like an eon ago. Through January 1st, 2022. So yeah, like we actually have arena leaderboards out. Pretty cool. So many familiar faces, and shouldn't be a surprise, right? I don't think we have that many new hardcore arena people floating around.
Are you forgetting about Summit?
I
The
don't know how hardcore he is, but he is fulfilling the prophecy of
mm-hmm.
Dread's chosen one who will bring back glory to the arena and make it, quote, pop
I
off.
mean, I think he is literally the biggest streamer to have ever played Hearthstone Arena.
Oh yeah, he definitely is. I mean, just look at concurrent viewerships and all of that. And we're obviously not counting like let's say if some huge streamer tried it for a few games
Yeah,
here and
yeah,
there,
yeah.
right?
He was
But
actually playing for Arena.
Summit actually played for quite a bit, gave Redbeard some nice hosts, was really proud of his first 7 wins and 12 wins, just
Mm-hmm.
going through the progressions. Maybe we'll see Summit stick around. Maybe he will get equally frustrated with the meta. And maybe, which is by far the most likely scenario, he goes back to playing FPS games.
Really? You think he's going to go back to playing FPS games after
I
he's gotten
mean,
a taste of Hearthstone Arena?
this is basically like if Crip goes to FPS games and then stays there. It's just is it possible? Sure. Uh do I expect Crip to come back to some sort of strategy-esque game? Yeah, I do. So it's nice that Summit is enjoying his time. I personally watched some of Summit's stream. I enjoyed watching Summit deliberate over it. The man's obviously smart to achieve what he has achieved, so his thinking process was obviously there. The chat was I couldn't take it though. I'm sorry. You have like 18,000 people backseating. The amount of truly Papega players throwing out recommendations was terrible. I couldn't stand the chat, but it was nice seeing Summit, and it was nice kind of looking at Summit and being like, oh yeah, we were all there once trying to figure things out. So that was pretty cool. Definitely unexpected. In terms of things that I did not expect in 2022, a huge streamer like Summit 1G playing Arena was way out there.
When I first heard it, I was like, is this is this a new Summit? Like, is this the same person that I'm thinking of? Because I haven't been in the scene for a while. So when I think Summit, I think FPS, one of the biggest streamers ever, playing Hearthstone Arena. But hey, I guess weirder things have happened. And if you noticed, the meta may be getting a little softer because of his influence and getting a few more people. It doesn't take that much to make the arena meta
It
softer
doesn't
because
take
there's not that many people playing the arena. So you get any amount of new players trying, it's going to push everybody up a little, and then even at the mid to high wins, you're going to see the people who were previously at like mid to low wins or whatever. So it's not like the launch of an expansion, right? Like he's not moving that many people. But I did notice the meta being a little bit softer than it was before.
Yep. All right. Let's give some shout outs to the people who got on the leaderboards, who were brave enough and patient enough, and had the mental fortitude to actually play that much arena. Number one in Americas was Cheesy10 with 8.5 average. Congrats to Cheese. Very well deserved. We have Veritas at number two, Talreal at number three. Once again, these are people that If you're in the arena community, you know that these individuals have been here for years. They're still playing, they're still grinding, still just absolutely crushing it. Roof Trunlet at number 4, Redbeard, who we just spoke about, at number 5, Language Hacker at 6, Kohei at 7, DMT at 8, F. Ivanovich at 9. We see them in the chat pretty frequently. At number 10, we see Powerful. I won't go through all of them. Shout out to the top 10. But basically, if you are on this list, and I know we have people from our Discord and from our chat, and just from other channels as well that I talk to and I joke around with, who have made the leaderboard. Congratulations! This is a very big achievement still. And even though Blizzard doesn't care about Arena, I'm happy for you guys. I'm proud of you guys.
And now we know that Summit 1G cares about Arena.
I know. Summit cares. So we also see Isherwood at 23, for example. I see Lonely Lotus here at 32. Once again, if you're on the leaderboard, I missed you. I deeply apologize. I won't be able to shout out everybody. But Judge at 40. Nobody important at 53. And then, I see Save File here as well. But a lot of the regulars, once again, always reinforcing. And I see this, for example, on Arena HS. Sometimes people will get super frustrated and just be so angry and just be like, oh, this card makes me angry and there's no skill anymore. And, we talk about metas that have more skill or less skill or whatever. Arena is always going to be a skillful game. The good players will always be able to differentiate themselves. Sometimes it feels better or worse than other times. Sometimes decisions in the early game don't matter as much, or in the late game don't matter as much, or because of this one card, your decisions against this one class don't matter as much. But we can see leaderboard to leaderboard, the cream always rises to the top. I don't even know what that means, but I'm going to say it anyways. So huge congrats to those individuals in the American leaderboards.
All right. Yeah. And before we move off Arena, I want to talk just a little bit about Arena strategy amidst all this BG stuff, even though nothing's really happened to the meta that much. Adding the new cards, it really did help. I talked about this last week. And the cards like Hippograph, cards like I'm forgetting the name, the 2/6 taunt, and then just bad cards being added to the arena, not because you see them, but because they dilute everything, so everybody else's cards are a little worse. It really helped the arena a bit. But the card I want to talk about, and just kind of, I'm going to use it as a gateway to talk about what is Tempo doing in this meta, and it's Ram Commander. So we all know it's one of the best neutrals in the game right now. It's a 2-mana 2/2. You get 2 1-mana 1/1 rushes. I'm not going to focus on the combos and the stuff, but there will be combos and stuff. Think about when you have a Ram Commander's Rams, not when you're playing the Ram Commander, but those 1/1 Rams in your hand. There will oftentimes come to a situation where you're hanging 1 or 2 mana, and there's no targets for these Rams, and you have to figure out if you just want the extra 1/1 body on the board, or if you want to hold them in your hand so that they don't get board wiped along with everything else, or picked off, or somehow more efficiently traded, right? This decision point probably comes up at least once every other game that you will play in the arena. It just happens so often. And the way to think about this, and whether you're doing it, has nothing to do really with what's on the board or what's whatever. It has to do with your win conditions and your next turn. So you never play the 1/1s unless you need them for face damage. If you can, in your hand, play them the next turn to no negative effect. Because let's say next turn, you're going to definitely slam your 5 drop down, but you have 6 mana. In that case, if you have 1 ram in your hand, you don't play it the turn before. It is totally pointless, except to get 1 to face damage, so you almost never do it. But if you're unsure about your next turn, because you have a bunch of different options that you may be playing, it may be worth it to put it on the board for tempo. And so, in order to make that decision, you have to figure out how important tempo is right now for you. Which, if you're talking 5 years ago, it would have been almost always important unless you're trying to play around a Flame Strike or some specific card. But nowadays, it's not just tempo out as fast as possible, right? Especially when you have cards like these Rams that can ping whenever and can really solve a lot of problems. Like, it can remove those 4/1/3 drops, it can remove Basilisk stuff, it can cause huge swings in the game, especially when combined with other removals if you just hold on to them. So they're actually very valuable. But at the same time, if you subtract 1 mana from your opponent that they have to take care of the Rams and get like a damage or something here or there, that could swing the game so that you can end the game before your opponents overpower you. So this involves knowing what your deck is doing. And that is so key. So this general question about what you should do with like Night Captain, right? Like, not when you have it. I went over what you have it a couple of podcasts ago, but when you should play around it. I almost never play around it, but there are a whole bunch of situations in which I do play around it. But they're like very rare situations. They just kind of add up. So it looks like I'm sometimes playing around it, even though I keep saying I don't play around it. And that's because it's the same consideration on tempo that you have to think of. Whenever you're playing around a Night Captain, you're losing tempo. Do you need that tempo? When do you need that tempo on turn 5? It depends on what your deck is doing and how you evaluate your deck. More important than ever now is your deck, which happens before you even step into the game. But you have to play towards your deck. So if your deck has those win conditions, which many decks do now, and you want to risk it, which means you want to risk that you feel pretty good that you have better win conditions than your opponent does, because there's a high chance your opponent has win conditions too. Then you play in a style in which you're just trying to not lose. Extra couple damage don't matter. Extra tempo or 2 don't matter. Your entire purpose is just to prevent yourself from getting these big swings that happen against you and getting pounded to the face before you get to your Ysera or just your, ridiculous amounts of large cards or your board clears or whatever what have you, right? On the other hand, if you don't have that type of deck, you need to figure out your tempo status on the board and what you're doing with it. So there's no way to there's just kind of too much information on what the right play is, and whether you save the Ram, whether you play the Ram, whether you play around the Night Captain, whether you don't play around the Night Captain. It'll rarely be correct to play around the Night Captain, but it sometimes is. It'll rarely be correct to throw your Rams out there just to be 1/1s, but it sometimes is, more often to play around Night Captain, actually. And when you're thinking about these decisions, you really need to get a feel. Like, I don't have the answer for you because it's very specific, but you really want to get a feel for what has happened. So whenever you come to that decision point, and there's going to be a lot of practice time for you, because this happens all the time in this meta. And it happens in various different ways, right? We talked about Rams, we talked about playing around Night Captain potentially. There's like bunches of other stuff. Just focus on what happens 2 turns from that turn, or maybe even 3 turns from that turn, and look back on it and say, well, knowing what I know now, what would I have done? You got to go through this rep like 100 times, which really wouldn't take that long. That's just a few runs, because these situations pop up all the time. And you'll get a better sense of whether you went for tempo and it mattered, or you went for tempo and it didn't matter, or you didn't go for tempo and it bit you, or you went for tempo and now you don't have a Ram, and later on that Ram would have saved you. You want to get that sense going, because whether tempo does anything at all now in the mid game is extremely unclear, depending on what deck you have and how your opponent is doing and what reads you have on your opponent and all the things that's going on. So there's no more simple answers to that. And sometimes you don't want a tempo, while other times, if you don't tempo, you will just lose the game, and you're only out actually on turn 5, as you have to recognize that this is my out that I'm tempoing, even though I don't have like an aggro deck, right? Like, if you have an aggro deck, obviously you tempo, but just most of the mid-range decks where you don't have that like giant monster in the back, um, or you do have a giant monster in the back, but you're like 8-0. Your opponents are probably going to have one too. You have to figure out whether to tempo or not, and that is just it's a sense you have to develop. And the meta is super stable, and they're not going to micro adjust, so it's a good time to figure this stuff out. And once you figure it out once, the next time you have to figure this out when the meta changes again, you will be in a much better position to do that, because that's what we do. Like if you watch the Arena Coop, we do this all the time, where we make these decisions based on our win conditions and our hand and what our next turn is going to be, and it'll come out different ways. And we'll talk about two possible plays, and it'll end up being like, yeah, this is probably the right play, maybe 60-40 or whatever, but it all adds up. And we don't do that because we know a meta really, really, really well. We can do that in any meta, like once we know vaguely what it is, because we had so much reps in interpreting a new meta and doing the same exact kind of like mental math and expectations and risk analysis. So this is a good time to develop that, because this is also a really complicated time with the RAM commanders, especially, of when's the proper time to use these cards. It's a very good like indicator point, and you can go back and look at your own play in your head pretty easily and figure out if you did it right or you did it wrong. All right,
Yeah.
that's my RAM commander rant. It's not really about whether it's good or not. We all know it's freaking great, but it's a really good study tool.
It is, and it's one of the things that I think there are cards that come along every now and again, and really remind us. It's like, okay, when we think about how good a card is, what are we taking into consideration? And I'm just gonna say something like Bunker Sergeant, or for example, I was like, oh man, I think this is gonna be good. You talk me down. But like more than either one of us, I think factored in was, and something I will keep on thinking about from this point onwards, uh, is something like, okay, what do I think the meta is going to be? And the meta is always going to be something like, I think it's trending towards this way, like a lot of heavy hitters, a lot of stuff
Mm-hmm.
that it's like, just don't lose in the beginning, because you should have options, right? Or like just don't lose in the beginning, because there are ways to lose in the beginning. There are ways in which it's like, oh man, I didn't have like a way to push off their early aggression, or not even aggression, just to clean up properly and then
And
give
just to
myself
deal
some
with their
room.
curve, right?
Yeah, just to deal with stuff. And that sucks. And Ram Commander, very similarly to Bunker Sergeant, just solves a lot of these problems. So it's great. And if you look at Hearthstone just in a very vanilla way, these aren't like that fantastic. Like
Mm-hmm.
Adulta's kind of reasoning for not hating on Bunker Sergeant, but not rating it as high as it maybe should have been, is just because if you break it down, its value is like, just on paper, it's like not fantastic, right? But it's just very necessary. It's like by you playing Bunker Sergeant, you are adding a higher probability of you being able to play that thing that has ridiculous value. Like that, it'll help you reach that Ysera. It'll help you reach your Brasswing or whatever it is that you can play later on. So any sort of value that like any sort of just like, oh, vanilla value that you're getting from Bunker Sergeant is made up there. And then of course it's also just a good meta for Bunker Sergeant, because there's
It's a
tons of
really good meta for
like
pings.
tokens. Yeah, there's tons of tokens out there. But that is something I will keep on keeping in mind later on. Be like, what do I think the meta is going to be? And if the meta is going to keep on being like, well, there are tons and tons of very powerful swing cards later on that you are able to play, as long as you have the space to play it, well, okay, cool. Like, how do I make the space to play it? Bunker Sergeant and Ram Commander, which I think are just absolute backbones of every deck. Or like these are the workhorses, right?
Mm.
People complain about the Ysera's. People kind of are in awe of these very powerful cards: Snowfall Guardian, the Paladin Templar, right? Brasswing. All of these ridiculously powerful cards. You have powerful old cards as well, like Unstable Evolution. But it's really the Ram Commanders and uh, the bunker sergeants, which are doing the work. These are the sort of meat and potatoes. It's like, oh, we're gonna get you there. We're gonna get you first to the knight captains, and then knight captains are gonna get you to the brass wings and the Ysera's. So that's what happens. If you don't have the ram commanders, you don't have the bunker sergeants, then maybe the knight captain gets awkward, and then the knight captain gets
Hmm.
awkward, and therefore you never make it to the Ysera. And that's a real damn shame. It's like you don't have that early on presence or lead, and because you don't have that, everything falls apart. So, yeah, that's Ram Commander. Let's talk about BGs. So, BG's got a little bit of an update this week because Blizzard cares about BGs. They're coming out with esports for BGs. So,
Kind of a weird
here
update.
are some of the changes, right? The developer said that it is a hot fix, and you can tell that they wanted to address some of the things that they really want to address quickly. First of all, Maleficent's Buddy, which is an Elementium Squirrel Bomb, it is a 4/4 mech. It is now going from tier 3 to tier 4. This patch was out earlier this week. We've already seen it for about 3 days now. If you remember, this little mech squirrel bomb has a death rattle. Deal 4 damage to an enemy minion. Repeat for each of your mechs that died this combat. You just get it a little bit later. Maleficent was incredibly strong. Maleficent is still very, very strong. There is a lot of strength in having a buddy that, number one, you want to keep around, so you golden it. Number two, just works with what you were wanting to do anyways. And number three, also provides you an additional way to survive and potentially win. So you wanted to buy mechs anyways, but now if you're picking up like the 3/1 magnetic, the replicating menace, you can just place it by itself, right? Like, oh, I want to just get some small mechs going. It'll help with your mid to late mid game to just survive, make sure that you always win or tie, and that is worth a lot in the meta nowadays. So yeah, it's not like Millie is bad. They just made the buddy a little bit harder to get. So it was one of those changes in which um was it really necessary? I mean, Maleficent was definitely a little bit too powerful. Does this really change Maleficent? Like, are you going to pick her less now? I don't think so. She is still quite powerful. I see people use her, and it doesn't really change much of anything at all. Probably one of the biggest changes, not due to effect, but mostly because it was, in my opinion, the most problematic unit in the game. It was Terragosa. And Terragosa is now a tier 4 unit. If you guys don't remember, Terragosa is a 4/4 dragon, used to be on tier 3. And Terragosa says this permanently keeps enchantments from combat. Now, when Terragosa was first printed, there were not that many ways to buff itself in combat. There were some creative ways, like for example, you can use like pirates, right? Like Eliza, to buff this up. You always had the good old promo Drake, but now with buddies, there are plenty of ways to buff Terragosa in battle, or you can just have a super promo Drake from Tavish's buddy. So Terragosa is just problematic, and everybody has been kind of identifying it for a while. It's just tragic because if you look at dragons, it's a Dragons as a class, people were pointing this out. As a tribe, you are broken if you look at your tier 6 defining unit and you just don't want, like, it's like that Drake meme where he's like pushing away the Kalagos and then like saying yes to the Terragosa. Your tier 3 tier 4 dragon strats and ultimately getting the Nadina after you're like, second or third triple, and then you can level up and try to go find that Nadina, is so much better than Caligos. Caligos is so bad these days. It's just ridiculously slow. Like, that's your reward so that you can scale as a significantly worse tier 1 whack toggle. Like, that's the reward for getting to tier 6 and taking like the ultimate dragon minion. So Terragosa is on Tavern 4. Does it really change anything? Not really. There's obviously less Terragosas to go around. There are some turns in which you might only be on tier 3 and then you won't see it. So there's obviously a little bit less chance to get a get Terragosas because you can't see it on that turn. But really, let's face it, it wasn't tier 3 to tier 4 that was the major roadblock. Right now, it is tier 4 to tier 5, and the heroes that can get there, get there. The heroes that struggle to get there because they're just bad still struggle to get there. So this didn't change much from what I have seen. Um, they obviously made it a little bit more difficult for you to get like the godly Terragosa setups, but Terragosa is still problematic, as it sort of always was. Um, we'll see what they do with it, if anything at all, past this point. I have a feeling that they might just look at it here and say it's okay, but it's more of the design issue of Terragosa, and also if your next step is to change Caligos, I'm cool with that because we gotta get Caligos
Hmm.
sort of like fixed. Caligos is these days. It's funny enough. Caligos is like less used and worse than Rag, and you guys know how much I hate Little Rag, but Little Rag is used way more than Caligos. That's how far uh, Caligos has fallen. Just because with Dragon comps, you never aim for a Caligos comp. There are, exceptions and just weird situations in which you could do like double Caligos. If you get it super fast, double Caligos is still like okay, but it just doesn't work. So
And that's
dragons
silly,
right
just
now are just
thematically. That's the
broken.
whole point of dragons. I mean, the Dina's still there, but they're going to change it. Not in the
They
next
have to.
patch, maybe, but they're going to. This is just so off theme for dragons. What's happening with Terragosa?
Yep. Dragonid Enforcer is now on tier 3 instead of tier 4. So Dragonid Enforcer is a 2/4 dragon now, and it says after a friendly minion loses Divine Shield, gain +2/+2. Okay, that's fine. Nobody was really playing Enforcers previously. I mean, now, if you're George, you're playing like the gem splitter composition. You can put a divine shield on here as well. This thing grows. It's an option. You're putting divine shields on just all of your stuff anyways, but this doesn't really kind of change anything. Once again, Dragon Enforcer doesn't really make its way into any real dragon comps because dragon comps are Terragosas. They're the promo drakes. And then you want Prestor, you want Nadina. So it doesn't really leave much room for an enforcer, so you won't really grow it. And if you're not growing it, because really the only way to grow these are through Calgos, and you're not doing Calgos, it doesn't matter that much. So yeah, that was like the BG update. Did it change much? No. Like, you should kind of pretty much play the same way as before. I I was really looking forward to playing more BGs during this patch, and I just find myself in a position where I don't think I can play that much. Now, some people might be having a lot of fun with it. Do I still recommend people to try out BGs and see if they have fun with it? Absolutely. You should absolutely try it out for yourself. See if you have fun with it. I can just say that from my point of view, I'm not having as much fun because for me, BGs has always been about the flexibility. It has been about the adaptability, and that is still there. Once again, it's like when we talk about, is an arena meta skillful or not skillful, it's all just relative. It's like, oh, this is less skillful in this way, this is more skillful in that way. It obviously takes a ton of skill. BGs is still a ridiculously hard game, and it takes a ton of skill. You see the same people over and over again at the top of the leaderboard. Never dreads. Like that is like proof that there is much skill involved, okay? Um but for me, there are just some strategies these days that I do not enjoy. I think there are very fun heroes. For example, Yogg is a very fun hero. I love playing Curator. I love the fact that Curator is good again and you can buff all of these things. But then there are things like Witch Bazil Demons on tier 1. Wag Toggle tier 1 elemental spam. Oh man, that is just gross, just disgusting. Uh, like I know that Addleton liked playing Wag Toggle because at that time the curve to play Wag Toggle was so easy, right? You played
Mm-hmm.
you stayed on tier 1 for a while, you collected stuff, and then you clicked hero power, and then you level up, you click hero power, you level up, you click hero power, and then you're just on tier 5 before everybody, and then you get like, Light Fang or Brand, you keep on buffing up. That was when Wag Toggle was at the top of the meta, I don't know, a year and a half ago when it first came out. And now, Adulta, so you don't know this, and I'll explain to you. It's even easier now because you know how you had to level up and still had to buy like things and try to figure it out on tier 5. You don't
Mm-hmm.
have to do that anymore. You just stay on tier 1 forever. There's so many tier 1 strats nowadays. And for Wag Toggle, it's so easy. You just identify what tribes are in, you play those, and you make sure elementals are in, and you buy elementals, and that is the one that you cycle over and over again to trigger the buddy's power. And the buddy's power is that whenever you play a tribe that you didn't previously have on board, you trigger your hero power, which gives everything +1/+1. You just keep on playing elementals. You just keep on doing that. You just keep on staying in tier 1, and you get your like easy second place or sometimes first place with it. It's really, really dumb. That's what I don't like. Now, that might not bother you guys as much. Totally understand. It just bothers me a lot. Um, and I think there's a lot of like very crazy stuff happening as well. So I just want to say, make your own decision. Test it, play it. I'm just hoping, because this is a temporary event, I'm just gonna come back to BGs after they patch it significantly in some way and check it out. But I certainly don't want this to be a reflection. It's like, oh, BG is doomed. BG, like don't play it. Decide for yourself. It's not for me right now. I know some people are still having lots of fun with it. Uh, and at the end of the day, if you're looking for a limited format that involves a ton of skill, that Blizzard obviously loves and is sort of like the favorite child right now, it's BGs. So play it. You know it's going to get updated. You know they're going to do balance changes for it. If you like it at all, why not play the thing that is getting attention, getting an actual esports, is going to get balance patches. They're going to at least listen to feedback and keep on updating it and putting out
I
new
don't
stuff.
know. Something was nerfed. The most popular requested nerf didn't happen.
Illidan wasn't nerfed. A little bit understandable because if you just look at general stats, Illidan is the number one, and that makes sense. So Illidan is the number one there, and if you look at these changes as well, I think you can just see that like they didn't do much, or they
Mm-hmm.
wanted to just put out a small balance patch with like some of the things that I think they consider to be egregious. And you know what? like I don't want to criticize them so much for not touching Illidan because I want to incentivize Blizzard and say good job on responding to some things quickly. Like Haragosa was definitely a problem. So let's do something about it. Do I think that they did enough? No, but look, hey, props for doing something.
Hmm.
Props for
They
doing
also
something.
did say that they are going to do a bigger patch very soon.
Yeah, they are. Look, BGs has their attention. They are going to pay attention to BGs and changes. So, but good job on them because I think we should definitely encourage them to do these smaller changes, right? Like smaller changes are good. You
Hmm.
don't have to wait a while and then do a huge amount of changes. So good job there. That's it for BGs. I certainly don't want sort of my dampened enthusiasm to influence you guys. You guys should try it out, but I will be waiting for the next significant patch before diving back in again.
All right. Um, that's BGs. That's arenas. Let's keep this short. We're gonna do a quick question from the goat, or not a real question from goat. I'm just going to update people on what's happening. I am going to be in New York / New Jersey visiting my parents, and so this is why this episode is early. There will not be an arena coop for this week, and then I will also not be streaming next Friday because I'll still be out. But next Sunday is when we return to normal. For me, Merps is not. Merps will just be doing normal things. Are you streaming on Sunday?
Yeah, I think I will probably be streaming. I'll be streaming
Great.
something probably.
Merps will be streaming something on Sunday, and we still don't know when this Diablo thing is happening.
We don't. So,
Ugh.
I will just answer because you never keep up with any of this stuff. Diablo just got another update, a patch to
I,
the patch,
I saw.
essentially.
I saw. I'm
Uh,
keeping vague tabs on it. People were
which
complaining about Ravens.
Yeah, I know. The dumbest thing was, so I had decided already. I was like, okay, you know what I want to make for this new ladder? Hydra Sork. Like it's cool. You guys know I love playing Sorks, but also Hydra is just a cool skill. I've always wanted to play a Fire Sork, but it was never viable. And then they took back like the buffs to Hydra. I'm like, why? Why would you do this? Of all the ones that you're taking back, why take back Hydra? I just don't understand. That was one of the only ones that they took back. The other ones were, I would say, way overtuned. So, for example, one of the things that was overtuned was Holy Fire Aura,
Oh yeah, I
and
remember that.
people, by putting on certain rune words, you could literally just walk around the end game and just charge around, and things would just die as you charged through the levels. Like they would just automatically die as soon
Enter a
as you
room,
saw them.
everything dies. That's
Yes.
peak gameplay right there.
So they got rid of that, and it's like, okay, that probably goes beyond a design philosophy thing for you guys, and I'm cool with that. Uh, Hydra was never overpowered. Like people tested it, and they had the best equipment, even like the best new equipment, which is good for fire as well. And it's like, was the kill speed better than the current best Sork spec, which is like Lightning Sork? No, it wasn't. So why do you nerf it? I just don't understand. It's like we have the opportunity to make all fire skills better, and they did a good job with the fire druid. Props to them for making fire elemental druids better. They had a chance to do it with Hydra Sorks, and they said no. We want to take this back when it wasn't
Yeah.
even that
It's not
powerful.
clear what they're going
I
to
don't
do
get
in
it.
the end because it seems like they're doing major like balance changes within their PTR balance changey thing. Like who knows what they're going to end up settling on, right? There may be ideas they haven't even tested yet. Like this is not one of those. Oh, it's going to be in PTR. Nothing super broken. Okay, then we're going to put it on live. This seems like they're actually just like actually beta testing it. This patch.
Yep. So look, I'm looking forward to it. They also said that they are getting close to finalizing the PTR and
Okay.
shutting it down. And they said after they shut it down, it should be a short period of time until the ladder actually begins. Super looking forward to that. I mean, that's what it's all about, right? Like actual ladder system, and by actual ladder system I mean hardcore ladder, because there was no way. Like, first of all, there was just no way I was playing hardcore at the beginning of a launch of any Diablo game. That's just asking for. But then, of course, you guys saw that was uh, that was smart because we just kept on getting kicked off every single hour.
Yup.
And then so now it is better. I can say that I still play Diablo from time to time. I, knock on wood, never get kicked off anymore. It is very, unless I have internet issues. So uh, I'm ready to go. I'm very excited. I think a lot of the changes are pretty good. So, for example, if you want to play Amazon again, you can actually put points into like dodge, avoid, evade. Uh, those aren't a pure negative for you anymore.
I did that anyway.
Right. I know. So you actually
I did not care that they were negatives.
They were a pure negative for you because like there was no reason for it.
Yes.
that animation was so long, it actually put you in more danger.
But I like seeing the animation.
It was terrible. It was actually terrible. So, super looking forward to that. Once that comes out, you guys won't see me play anything Hearthstone related for at least a little bit of time because I will be grinding that ladder. Okay, we gotta be.
I hope it doesn't come out like there's windows in which I can't do it, and there's other windows in which
it's not good for me right now either. But we will figure something out.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, that's it for us. We'll see you for the Lightforge at least next week on Sunday at the normal time.
No, wait, sorry. Next week is a Super Bowl.
So wait, but okay. Well, I'm okay, but
Yeah,
you're not okay.
No, I'm watching the Super Bowl. Right, I'm a normal human being who enjoys human being activities
it's just a weird sport, just a weird sport that not a lot of people are interested in this world.
That's true. Yeah, very eccentric thing.
But what's okay? So, all right. Well, we got to figure out when to do the Lightforge.
We will figure that out.
Okay, maybe Monday. Like we could do it in your stream.
Yeah, we could.
Okay, well we'll figure it out. Basically, okay, so Lightforge is not going to happen for on next Sunday. So there'll actually be like a 10-day period between now and the next Lightforge. All right. Well, I will be streaming that Sunday during the Super Bowl then. For those of us who do not care about this very weird sport with the most ridiculous rules, like you want to talk about a game that needs like more game designers to actually care about it, American football. Like it is not getting enough love from the developers of physical sports.
Do you have a change that you would like to make?
I'd scrap it and start from the ground up. It needs a reboot, it needs an expansion. It's just something you can't just tweak your way out of everything, right? Like it's fundamentally flawed. You're gonna have to shuffle some points around, a whole lot of stuff's gonna happen. It's not an easy fix, right?
Sounds good. All right. I think that's it for us.
All right. Until next week, this is Adwicta.
This is Merp. See you guys.